Our session today is Drupal in Enterprise. And today we're going to talk about enterprise platform for building and supporting thousands of sites. And who we are? Let me introduce ourselves. My name is Denis Gavrilovich, a lead software engineer working in EPAM company about already 6 years. Also working with Drupal about 9 years. And my colleague Dmitry, also lead software engineer working in EPAM company about 7 years, and with Drupal also about 9-10 years. So a few words about our agenda. Today we are going to talk about enterprise projects, typical problems and solutions, and lessons learned. And as you can see, our agenda is split into parts. I will talk more about processes, and Dmitry will talk more about technical things. Notation of enterprise. What is enterprise? Frankly speaking, I spent some time trying to find a proper notation, and unfortunately without any success, because when you take a look in Wikipedia... No, we have a recording, sorry. Okay, notation of enterprise. Okay, frankly speaking, I spent some time trying to find the proper notation, and unfortunately without any success. In common, in real world, when you say enterprise, it usually means the same as company or probably a business. But in IT world, when you're talking with developers, enterprise project means really something big, with complex formal rules, a lot of functionality, special attention to non-functional attributes, big teams, and of course a lot of communications, and all the above is correct. About our customer, just a few words. It's a huge product company distributed around the globe, which literally has more than 80 real brands. And I want to provide more context about our project. So we started 4 years ago, and at 2015. And when we started, our client has about 500 independent sites without any common source base, without any platform, without automation testing, and the same for deployment. We had manual deployment, and unfortunately, as a result, only 30% of defects were found before production. So it's a bad result. And what we have nowadays, so our solution based on Drupal multi-siting. We have Drupal platform, which contains all required functionality and settings. And we also have our own automation framework and our own CI/CD platform. And for now, we have more than 1,000 sites in production. And Dmitry will talk more about technical details in the second part. About our teams, so we have 6 teams. First team, site build team, which actually build sites end-to-end, from start to end. We also have improvement team, which actually responsible for small platform changes, let's say changes which takes less than 1 week and requested by a particular brand. And we have platform team, which is responsible for big features, which usually takes 4 or 3 months, and responsible for development a platform, a Drupal profile. Release team, which actually do upgrade for all 1,000 sites to a new platform version, usually. CI/CD team, it's a separate team, which has DevOps stream, and also PHP stream, which actually responsible in charge of our CI/CD tool development. And final one, but not the least, test automation team, as we have our own automation framework, with team develop and improve this particular tool for us. And in overall, our team distributed around the world. We have 3 main locations, one Belarus, another one United States and Ukraine. And in overall, we have more than 100 team members in our team. It's a big one. So let's talk about problems. And as I mentioned, I will talk more about processes. And first process I want to discuss, it's a bureaucracy. So unfortunately, there are a lot of bureaucracy in enterprise. And the first item is access. So as we have huge amount of tools, we have Jira, we have source code, we have Jenkins, and usually each team has its own project. For example, in Jira or in source code repository, you should request access separately for all such projects and for all tools. And it's very annoying. It's a really problem because I even would say it's a kind of nightmare for project managers, unfortunately, but it's true. And what we can do here, of course, you should request all access in advance because sharing credential is not an option, but it happens sometimes, unfortunately. So, and also sometimes it's not only a request to a particular tool, to a particular web portal, you also have to pass trainings, and these trainings may take some time. And it's also a problem, especially when you request access to a production site, to a production tool, because production a bit different, and it happens to me recently. 2 weeks ago, everything was fine with development and staging, but unfortunately I lost access to production. So, and we lost our video. Okay, good. Next problem, approvals. So as we have a lot of formal rules in enterprise, we have a lot of approvals. For example, when you build a site, before you build a site, you have to pass approval for content, you have to pass approval for requirements, and before you go live, you have to pass security audit for your source code, you have to pass security audit outside with special tool. Also, you have to pass performance tests, architecture audit, final content approval, and also our sites should be compliant with all rules we have. So there are dozens of them, and actually it's a very exciting process when you do it first time, because it takes some time and you even cannot predict how many time it will take. That's why I suggest to document everything and communicate, share your knowledge between teams, and immediately communicate if any changes in this process regarding to approvals. And our suggestions here, collect statistics, because when you collect statistics, you definitely may plan your future sites, for example, and include this process in timelines. So probably communicate that, raise a problem that it's not efficient, that let's change it. Corporate systems. There are a lot of such systems usually. For example, we have identity management system in the enterprise. It's a kind of internal resources, and you should have integration. It's a common situation when you should have integration between your website and internal system. And what is the problem here? So recently I had this real case in one project, and it was integration with identity management system, and it requires some small development. And when we came to a development team and asked, okay, guys, please provide us estimations, they said something like, it may take about 1 week. And we say, okay, it's okay, it fits for us. And we asked them every day. So will it be completed in 6 days, in 5 days, in 3 days, and so on and so forth. And 1 day before deadline, we find out that yes, development will be completed tomorrow, but this tool will be in production in 1 month, because we have our own release cycle. So sorry guys, development completed, but you just don't get it. So you have to be aware about corporate systems and bureaucracy related to it. And also please pay attention to non-functional attributes, especially to performance, because usually internal systems based on some legacy technologies, and you may just find out that a small, service request takes, I don't know, 1 minute. And it definitely affects your modern single-page application in this case, for example. Okay, next, meeting-driven development. So we have this term in our projects because we have huge amount of meetings, as we have big teams, of course. And first item to discuss is retro session. Retro session probably is the most important one in software development, and we have literally dozens of them because we have retro session in each team on periodic manner, let's say every 2 weeks. We have retro session between teams, global retro, because we should synchronize our actions between different teams. We also have annual retro session for every team, annual retro session between teams, and also final retro session with customers over those and so on. And despite the fact that, again, in my opinion, probably it's the most important meeting in IT development, sometimes it's not efficient. And my suggestions here, always start your retro session with items in progress and in done column, because retro is not about raising problems, retro is about fixing problems. So another moment is it's better to include such retro activities in your day-to-day activities, and you should be able to create a ticket just now at the moment when you face an issue, instead of create it before a session. So it's not efficient. And the final one, it shouldn't be really often, because I hate a situation when you came to a retro session and project manager says you something like, guys, I give you 10 minutes, please create tickets, and you're just sitting and don't understand what to create. In this particular case, usually I create thank you tickets, thank you for this, thank you for that, but it's not the case, it's not efficient. So you should have a reasonable period of time between the retro sessions. Demo session. In our case, demo session is a really big meeting, because we have 5 teams presenting their results. We have about usually 70, 80 participants on the call. And again, we discovered that if you're talking about big features, and we should demo these features every 2 weeks, when it's really hard to combine all puzzles in one picture. You just don't understand what is this feature about, and we decided that, okay, let's do it probably once per 2 months, but show only completed features and prepare in advance. Do a presentation and prepare a final business feature, just to bring a business value for it. Next, communication. So as I mentioned, there are a lot of communications, but it's hard to believe, but sometimes it's not enough. And my advice here, you should have a good relationship between each other, between team members, and should have direct channels of communication between developers, project managers, architects, and so on. So it's pretty vital. It's better to the end of the session. We will have 5 minutes before. Okay, and what is more about communication? As we developers, we usually want to know all latest information, like news, future plans, and so on. We want to be aware about this information, and that's why in our project we even have a blog with articles in Wiki. You can just go and read, latest news. We also have annual town hall meeting, where we share our future plans, and each team presents their results and achievements and so on. And we also have appreciation month event. It's 1 month where we can say thank you to each other, thank you to a person in case it deserves it. So don't be afraid to say thank you. Documentation. As you notice that I repeat documentation, really often on my previous slide, but it's a key pillar, because we have huge amount of team members, and we have a lot of rotations because it's a big project and some people appear, disappear, but we should be able to, to got necessary documentation. And in case we are talking about features, because all features should be documented in our case, and there are 2 options. First one, developers might create such documentation, but, frankly speaking, as for me, I don't like create documentations. It's probably the same, it's pretty common for other developers. I don't like it, definitely. And there are 2 options. You can probably have dedicated technical writer, which will be in charge of such actions, of such activities. And another options here, you may include it in your development lifecycle. For example, create item in your definition of done list, and feature is not completed until documentation is not completed. So it's another approach. Knowledge transfer sessions, we have a lot of them. I'm talking about online knowledge transfer session where you can just, it's a video session, visual one, where you can share your knowledge about a particular tool. It's a very efficient tool, I would say, approach. And but the problem here, it's better to have a storage. It's better to have a storage where you can collect all recorded sessions, and for example, in case you need this particular session, you can just go to Microsoft Stream, for example. We use this particular tool. It's a kind of YouTube for internal use. You can go and check it because, in another way, you may remember that there were dozens of sessions related to this tool, but nobody knows where you can find it. So you should have a structured storage. Onboarding, another problem in our particular case. I recently passed onboarding as architect to a new team, and when I came to this team, I asked guys, do we have documentation? And they said to me, yes, of course we have, 500 of articles, please read. So, and it's definitely not real, because my reaction was, I'm not able to, because it's time consuming and I don't remember so many information. That's why, as we have a lot of rotations, it's better to have short version of documentation. For example, with all accesses, with information about, basic information about processes, stakeholders, team members, and so on. Just short version, which help you to get started. So my suggestion here. Feature development. And regarding feature development, as I mentioned, we have a platform and we have huge stakeholders, which also means that different stakeholders, different brands needs different things usually. And it's a kind of nightmare because you have to collect feedbacks, collect information from all of them. And in our moment, your feature should be customizable, should be flexible enough. And in case particular brand needs to change it, so you should have this ability. Another moment, it's information about usage of such features, because we may create, many features, but we should know, we should have information if, who use it actually, because what if we created it, but nobody use it? That's why we have a separate web portal which collect information from all 1,000 sites. We can just go there and check which particular brand use this particular feature. Next one, dependencies. So as Drupal has monolithic architecture, unfortunately we should avoid dependencies as much as we can. And for example, if you talk about contrib modules, we even have very strict process. You should fill template before you can include it and present your results, your evidences to architecture group. And in case architecture group approve it, so you can move forward and use it. Activation. So we discovered that probably as we don't have information, we don't have evidence about each brand, will it use it this particular feature or not. We decided that it's better to have all new features disabled by default. So, and we have special process, activation process, and even special team. And in case we updated a platform and this particular brand needs this feature, there is a team which is responsible for enabling it, configuring it, fixing issues, and so on and so forth. So all our new features disabled by default. Innovations. So it's a final my slide. And what is the problem here? As I mentioned it, we have a lot of bureaucracy and we have a big scale, and it's hard to, to implement something really new or use new modern technology, for example, methodology. It's really hard because you should pass, a lot of steps, provide evidences, and so on. That's why in our particular case, we have a separate team, R&D, research and development team, which is responsible for all new modern things. For example, we have internal local environment, which contains all required functionality specific for us. We also have a lot of Chrome plugins, which help us to create tickets in Jira, in pull request, and our source code tool, and so on and so forth. There are dozens of them. We do a lot of prototyping, because prototyping help us to understand if it makes sense to go with this particular feature. For example, in case we select, okay, let's create new sites on React, and for example, use Drupal 8 as a content repository. And there is a modern approach, decoupled components. So let's create a prototype and check how it goes, because we should be aware about all disadvantages and advantages of new approach. And the final item here is hackathons. So we are so big, and as we have hackathon event every year, and usually we invite teams from different departments, not only Drupal developers and PHP developers. Also, we invite people from big data, intelligence, and so on and so forth, DevOps, just to provide, new approaches, new tools for our customer, how we can improve digital experience for end users, in our case. Automation. So I'm done with my part. Dmitry, please take a word and provide information.
Okay, thank you, Denis. And now we are going to talk a little bit about automation. As you can see, our customer have so much processes, teams, developers, and we have to automate some of that processes to optimize our efforts. And let's look what automation we have and how it helps us. However, I suggest to firstly revisit one of the Denis slides about the client history. So as you remember, previously our client had so much sites developed on different technology stacks, and it was so hard to upgrade it, integrate to it some new features. That's why that approach has been transformed to a new one, and right now all new sites are using the same platform, the same core. So this is corporate Drupal distribution, and let's look on high-level structure on each site. So on the first layer we have Drupal, probably with some patches, and the second layer is profile, where we have custom and contrib modules, base team, and some scripts for automation. And next layer is a brand customization, where we have inherited team with some custom styles and brand-specific modules. And the last layer is market customization. Mostly this is just some minor style fixes. As you can see, with such approach, it's easy to integrate a new feature on each site. So all that you should do, just edit in profile, upgrade all sites, and activate that feature. From the other side, that new feature can break something like styles, and we have to test all our sites, and it will increase our testing effort, and it will be huge. That's why we have test automation. Test automation help us to optimize it. Mostly we have end-to-end tests and some integration tests like API tests, for example. We have our custom testing framework based on gbehave and separate Java developers team who is responsible for developing custom steps and support that framework. And also we have a team of QA engineers that are able to prepare test scenario for those sites. How they can do it? Because QA engineer don't know Java, you can ask me, and answer is Gherkin. Who know what is it? Probably up your hands. Okay, I briefly will describe what is it. So Gherkin is business readable, human readable, domain specific language developed specially to describe behavior. And I will show you a small example of test scenario. So on the first step, we ask automation go to some page. After that, choose something in dropdown, click save button, and after that, check that we have some message. Yeah, this is a pretty simple example. It can be extended, and as you can see, QA engineers able to write such test scenario, and it helps us to optimize testing efforts. However, we have so much test scenarios and sites, so we need something for visualization, how we can manage these test results. And here, a little report can help with it. You can use it on your projects as well. Because it have good integration with Behat, BDD PHP framework. So you can try to use it. And I have another question to you. can the test guarantee stability of site styles that I show? What do you think? Do you have any ideas? Yeah, good answer. And I'm going to tell you a short story about my friend. And no, it was not Denis. So one day, about 50 sites has been deployed to prod. After that, BVT automation test has been run. Result was successful, and nobody checked production. And after 5 hours, he recognized that some elements don't have styles at all on sites, and how we can check it. So, as additional layer we have of tests, we have visual tests, what it can do. So before deployment, it can go to each site, prepare snapshots, and after deployment, create new snapshot with configured threshold and generate diff report only for some changes. As Denis said, we mostly have not activated features, so view should be the same after deployment. So yeah, you should manually review it. However, when you have so much sites, it's helpful and also help optimize your effort. So automation is good. However, someone should run that automation tests, monitor it, store testing reports, and another person should deploy that site, synchronize environments, for example, copy database from production to dev, etc. So it also takes time. And to optimize it, we have CI/CD platforms that help us to deploy code, to run different tasks like update DB, clear cache, etc., run tests, and synchronize our environments. Yeah, there are a lot of tools that can help with it. However, unfortunately, those tools don't meet our requirements. And let's briefly look on our requirements that we had. The main requirement can be described in single word. This is multi. So such system should support multiple Drupal versions. It should support different distribution of Drupal. Should support different target clouds. So we should be able to deploy to Acquia, to Platform SH, to AWS, or synchronize sites from one cloud to another. Also, it should support multi-siting and copy DB files from multi-siting from site to another multi-siting, for example, and also support multi-locales in multi-siting too, to run different tests, for example. And another requirements are system should be configurable, so no hardcode, and all items like environment, sites, tasks, all should be configurable and so on. So it should be flexible. Yeah, it's pretty close to first item. However, it's a little bit different. It means that deployment pipeline should be tuggable, and user should be able to run different stages. Like, for example, I would like just run that kind of test, or only deploy code, or only synchronize, or prepare snapshots. And system should be scalable because at the beginning we had about few deployments per day, and now we have hundreds of them on the same platform. This is high-level diagram that show what we have right now. So that system based on Jenkins, and we have two kinds of slaves. First slaves go to run tests on Java, and another PHP slaves responsible to run all other job like synchronization, deployments, etc. All business logic has been moved in separate service responsible to pipeline orchestration. In other words, it say to Jenkins job what they should do, what task run, in what modes, with what configuration, to what environment they should deploy. And also it provides information for business dashboards that Denis mentioned about feature activation, etc. As I said, it should be configurable, and all configuration we store under the Git. There are more than 10 repositories with different access rights for different teams, and we have pull request review process, so we can see all changes on our environments based on that. And this is a simple example of configuration. As you can see, some common configuration can be moved in separate files, like test configuration, for example. Pipeline has different events, list of events, and users able to run their custom task on each of those events. For example, prepare baseline snapshots for visual test, after that build some assets, and run some sanitization task to remove some information from database during synchronization. Run post-update task like clear varnish cache, clear Drupal cache, update DB, etc. And at the end run tests, for example. So this is example of task configuration. We support shell tasks, support drush, support tests, and it's pretty easy and stored also under the Git. The same configuration supported to tests, but with different parameters, and we have a lot of kinds of tests, like tests for CI, tests for site builds, for upgrades, visual tests, and it's just part of group that we have. That system support multiple deployment modes. For example, you can update just single site in multi-siting, or for example, you can apply some patch to just Drupal core, or you can upgrade some settings on particular site, or you can run full deployment with whole cluster of multi-siting. And also you can run all of those mods on multiple environments. When it can be helpful, I think all of you remember that security issue when all agencies all over the world waiting and going to upgrade sites, and that automation really help us to upgrade thousands of sites in just clicking and run a few jobs. So it really optimize our efforts. We have synchronization. It can synchronize files from one environment to another, databases, and also prepare and restore snapshots. And you probably know that you cannot deploy and host production Chinese sites on Acquia Cloud due to legal regulation. However, you can do it on Platform SH, for example. And for us, it's useful. We use that feature. For example, development can be done by one team on Acquia, and after that, in a few clicks, you can synchronize all data to another cloud and also optimize that work. We have another kind of automation related with pull request propagation, so tools that help us to create automatically pull request, and also some tools for pull request validation that able to check styles and coming back in pull request what issues we have. Also, that automation tool able to provide to you free environment from Acquia. For example, say, hey, you can use it for your pull request. After that, run tests on that in particular code and comment back link to that site. You can review it manually, and also testing reports. So it's also useful. Fortunately, we're almost out of time, and I cannot describe all automation that we have. However, I would like to say that it's really helpful and help us to optimize our effort and execution time, efforts of test engineers and DevOps. And the main idea that we tried today present to you with Denis, that enterprise project have so much non-obvious problems like bureaucracy, processes, communication, some kind of automation, And probably, yes, you don't need some of that thing on small and medium projects. However, if you are going to start project on enterprise level, it can be helpful, and you should take it into account because it really will affect your estimates and your productivity. And from my point of view, enterprise project is boring from one side. From another, it provides to you some unique technical experience and interest, and you can see how those all teams can communicate together, and you may have tools that with what you cannot work on some small projects. So it's really interesting. And that's it from our side. Probably you have some question to us.
Very interesting to know about what you do. Is it? I got an impression it's something about variation of Scrum. Am I right?
We use Scrum of Scrums. Yes, but if you're talking about development methodologies, on previous slides I explained structure for our teams. And actually, of course, we have Scrum for our main team, for platform team, because it's a product team. It develops functionality and it's better to use sprints and so on and so forth. But for example, and the same for example, CI/CD team, because it's a tool. So it's better to use for product team. But in release team, we use Kanban. Because it's not a support, it includes some, fixing, and it's better to have it because it's a different process. That's why we have different. We have Kanban, we have Scrum, Scrumban, and so on and so forth. So we are flexible.
Think about Agile because mostly big enterprises.
No, actually no, because they feel definitely comfortable. So in EPAM I would say we have strong managers. It's pretty common for EPAM company. But for this particular case, for this particular client, our client also have agile trainee, which also helped us to to get started. But in general, we're totally fine with agile. So no any issues. It's okay. We have pretty common, development life cycle if we're talking about platform development, because, we have requirement phase, analysis phase, where we have to collect everything. We have business analysts and technical analysts. We usually call technical analysts, it's equal to architect. And business analyst responsible for collecting all requirements from stakeholders, combining them, and then next step, architects goes and just check, is it okay from development point of view? Probably it's not the most efficient solution, and probably let's hold on it at this point of time. Or usually architects provides non-functional requirements. For example, let's do it, but it should be flexible because, we predict that some brands need some customization, or it should be really fast. So we have performance requirements on it. So it's okay. We have stable processes, I would say.
Also, I mentioned you are using continuous integration in this.
Of course, Dmitry said a lot of information.
It's really interesting how you create stop triggers for that.
Dmitry will talk better.
When something fails, you just
Different reaction on different level of
It's a little
issues.
bit different. So when we're talking about CI process here with pull request, so we deploy it on some dev environment, pull request environment. So we run and create special environment for just that pull request and run on it. And after that, we report test automation back to pull request and all styles issue, etc. And anyway, we need approvals to merge it. So it's not fully automated like we merge and it go to production. So
But in case we talk about continuous deployment, as I understand, of course we have CI/CD.
Deployment. I mentioned to you different kinds of deployments. However, it's not automated like you merge and it go to
Triggers. It depends from trigger, but
So we have some business approvals like Denis mentioned. So
But in case we're talking about issues which may happen when we do a deployment, there are dozens of them, because you may, create incorrect configs. You may make a mistake in your platform, in your code, or probably, infrastructure issue. And we have different reactions on each issue. We have logs for every deployment, which helps build engineer just go, read this log, and understand what was the issue. So we have this process even automated. I think we may send some notifications. But if you're talking about different level of mistakes and reaction, yes, definitely we have it. So again, we have dedicated CI/CD team, which is responsible only for CI/CD. There is no other development, in this particular team. For now we have 6, and as I mentioned, we have more than 100 members, but these 100 members split it to 6 teams. And of course we have high-level management, like it's a program from management point of view. Program usually contains some, projects in it, based on a client. And we have program management, delivery management, so high level. But in general, there are 6 teams. We have technical governance. Again, in case we're talking about governance, we have high-level management, which actually control everything from management point of view. But we have technical governance. It's a group of architects, and this group control everything. Any important decision and this decision execution. So, for example, in case you think that, okay, I need some investigation, usually, if you're talking about investigations, spike stories in Scrum. Each spike story should be presented to each architecture group, and all should approve, okay, we approve this particular solution. So that's how we synchronize, we share our knowledge between different teams.
What tool? Is it some customized, your own EPAM developed tool which allows you to share information between everybody?
Communication channels?
All this process is supported by
Jira, we use Jira for project management.
Jira Confluence.
Sorry.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Could you please describe a little bit more, particularly how you deploy your Drupal features? Do you have your own composer repository? Where you store composer cache? How you deploy build composer repository? Where you do it?
Okay, I have only 2 minutes. I will try. Yeah, so we have our private package manager. This is Satis. So that know about all our packages and repositories. Each site is package, composer package. And in configuration, we manage sites like packages. Say we are going to deploy that version of platform and list of sites and, for example, versions of site. After that, building tool automatically generate composer JSON, and it can be, for that cluster, it can be different. It depends on is it Drupal 7 or, for example, Drupal 8. And after that, build tool run composer install, and it will combine all that code together. And after that, there are some deployment steps custom on Jenkins, developed on Think. So separate service that I showed. Probably I will scroll back. That service provides all that information, what packages we should compose with what version, and how to generate sites PHP. For example, it generates own settings PHP with some basic authentication and all other things. So, and after that, it, for example, if it's Acquia, it will push to Acquia and call Acquia Cloud API. Say, hey, please deploy that tag. For example, it just if you're talking about code deployment. And after that, there are some other steps like synchronize database files. For example, Acquia don't support synchronization of files for multi-siting. You can just synchronize, for example, files for all 100 sites. So this is also custom implementation, and there are a lot of different such things that help us to optimize it. So it's just short description of, yep.
You mentioned that your platforms.
I'm sorry.
We can continue, I think, on EPAM desk. Yeah.
We have a stand, so guys, you can reach
Yeah,
us.
please
you
go
know,
to
on
the stand and we can continue our discussion.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you too.